Hello. This has some latency, so for some reason it's not as fast as I would like. We will start shortly, in a few minutes. If there is someone already watching, we will start very shortly. So, for those joining or being here, this is the tree that we will be working on, and we will start in a few minutes. Just setting up now. One moment, please. Can someone please test the chat for me? Just ask a question or just say hi. Thank you, Pat. Thank you very much. So just 4 more minutes we start. Hi, Jonathan. Thanks for joining. I'm trying to arrange things here in a proper manner. Let me see how I can do this without breaking anything. I should probably disconnect this. Last minute updates on the setup here. Okay, I think this will be fine. And I need this cable here. So I can now read your questions, and I can appear sometimes in the camera, but the real talent in this show is this tree here. So thank you, Jonathan, for for the comment. It's highly exaggerated, but I appreciate it. Now, in 2 minutes we start. Everything seems in place. I see we have a number of people joining. That's very good. So let's see if I can hear myself and if it's too disturbing. All right. So, yeah, I don't seem to hear myself for some reason, which I don't understand, so I will remove this. Can you hear me well at in the stream? If someone could write in the chat. Yes, thank you, thank you. Okay. All right, so it's 6 o'clock. We will start now. So, welcome everyone. This is the first time that I try something like this. It's a live stream in YouTube. I am using a Osmo Pocket, which is a little nifty device to stream directly to YouTube. And the idea today is to do the first of perhaps many other streams in which will serve as a crash course in bonsai. And the subject today is this one. This is a little maple that is one of my first trees that I have in my collection for many years, and it started perhaps as thick as this only, and it has grown maybe 4 times its girth. Now this is clearly a very small maple, and the question is, why did I not put it on a box, on a sieve, on one of those corianders? All of this, or an air pot, all of these things would make this tree grow much faster. Now, there are advantages and disadvantages for everything, and in this case, let me tell you some of the advantages of having it in a pot right away. What many people would say a stick in a pot. It is a stick in a pot, but it's a source of enjoyment. It's a source of making you go on in the art of bonsai while having something beautiful to look at, instead of having a stick on an ugly pot. Now, a stick on an ugly large pot would grow faster, but as it grows faster, you would also not be able to have short internodes and start developing the structure of your tree in a controlled manner. You would have to do sequentially, first the trunk, then the primary branches, then the secondary branches, whereas here I have the opportunity to enjoy a stick on a pot and make it beautiful at a slower pace. Now, this is clearly a tree that doesn't look like an old tree. This tree here looks like it is a juvenile tree. It is a very elegant tree, you see, with all the movements, but this is the type of tree that you could see on a city, and this is not the type of a tree that you would expect to see to be a representation of a very old mature tree in the middle of a field. So there are many visions of what you can express with bonsai. Ultimately, is the objective is your enjoyment of the art and working with a living being. But this tree for now and for many years will be what we call a feminine design, which if anyone doesn't know what it means, I will explain in a moment. I will have to stop the talking in front of the camera every now and then to go and look at the questions. Luckily there is some latency which gives me some 20 seconds to look there and come back, although you will eventually see me escaping from the camera. So this is still not foolproof, this whole streaming, but this is a feminine design, and this is a juvenile image of a tree. By feminine design I mean something slender, something with gracious curves, something less powerful than a very strong and compact tree with angular movements that would be a masculine design. Now, when we speak of feminine design or masculine design, this has an impact on how we style the tree, and it also has an impact on the type of pot that we select. In this case, this pot is not too bad. This pot, although very rectangular, which is more of a masculine design, it has a profile, and it has a lip, and it has rounded corners, and all of this makes that this is more of an ambiguous pot that you can use for either type of design. And a large majority of pots are like this just because pots are mass produced and they need to be therefore usable with as many types of trees as possible. So today we will be repotting this tree. I will be explaining all that comes to my mind about the repotting process, and afterwards we will do a little bit of a selection of what's in this tree that we want to keep. So first of all, when do we repot, why do we repot, and then we will go into how we repot. When do we repot? There are only three situations in which we repot. First, there is no percolation of water, and this can be due to the accumulation of organic debris on the surface. So you can see here I have a lot of debris here. Eventually this turns into a mass that is impenetrable for water, or and simply prevents the percolation of water. Roots need two things to grow: water and oxygen. And if we cannot get water in, we have a problem. The second situation is when we cannot have oxygen coming in, and that more often than not is because the substrate has already compacted. Someone is calling me and I don't know why. Hey Kevin. So yeah, sorry for the phone call. I don't know who was calling me. So I was saying that the second reason to repot is that oxygen cannot go in, and this is very often because the substrate has already degraded sufficiently that it's like mud, and simply there is not enough air spaces between the particles to allow oxygen in. So this is the second reason why do we repot. And the third reason is because we want to make a change in aesthetics. When do we repot? We have to be gentle. I will have to take this phone call, and I don't know why someone is calling me. Hello? I cannot talk right now, okay? I'll talk to you later. Sorry, I am a university professor and one of my students called. um, so yes, I can upload these streams too. They will be available online. So the second reason why we repot is the lack of oxygen because of compactation, and the third reason is aesthetic. Now, when do we repot? We repot in the spring, and if you're an advanced level, and and depending on your climate, there is an opportunity to repot in late summer, but let's not concern ourselves with that at the moment. If it's another time of the year and you see that you don't have percolation of water, or you see that your substrate is too compacted, there are things to do. You can scrape the surface to see if you still have substrate that is in an integral format, and substitute the top layer. Or you can make a barrier, so that is if you have lack of percolation, or you can make a barrier with tape so that the water has more time to go through if you have a lot of degraded substrate, and then you wait until the next year. So right now we are repotting not because we have any substrate, the top layer preventing water in, or the substrate degraded preventing air in. We are going to have a change of aesthetics. So we will be speaking about aesthetics in a moment. I have a number of pots, and now we will start the repotting process, and when it comes time to repot, we will talk about the pots. So the first thing is that we look how the pot, that this particular pot has only one drainage hole with a little bit of wire, and the attachment, the anchoring wires wound on it. So the first thing is that I will separate this wire, and like this. So now I cut the wire of the drainage hole, and I put it straight, and then I cut it, so then there is no reason for it to snag on anything. Now I don't know if this tree will come out on its easily or not. Actually it is coming out, so you can see it's coming out easily. But if it was not coming out easily, we would use a tool like this, which is a Kuma, to separate the root system from the edge of the pot. This would be much more of an issue on a pot that has an inside turning angle, a concave, well, from the inside, a concave profile, because you would have roots growing on the inside. This is not the case here. We can simply remove the tree. And this tree has been here for 1.5 years, and you can see that it's already full of roots everywhere, going around the pot. The drainage screen is attached there, so I will remove the drainage screen, and we have here still substrate that is intact. And the reason why this substrate is intact is that these roots could have grown a lot more still in here. Now the only tool that I use during a repot is this, a chopstick. This is the type of chopstick like Ryan Neal uses, with a directional edge, like a bullet train sort of profile. And this is so that I can, when I'm repotting, I can push substrate in a directional manner. Now when I'm undoing when I'm cleaning the old root system, the fact that it's bamboo and not metal, like the standard sort of metal bonsai kits, is that I have much more sensibility to feeling when I'm hitting a root, and so I can be more gentle and not break anything. We will cut roots in this repot, but we will cut roots knowing what we're cutting and not as a result of not knowing what we're doing. Okay? Somewhere here I may have the wire from the last repot, and it's here actually. We'll come to it when we can. There you go. So you can see that the core of the tree is still unoccupied with roots. This is not very good. This part of the root system is called the core, or the shin in Japanese, and this is the most important part of the root system. Why is it the most important part? Because in the future, when this is a completely established tree, all we will ever do is cut the sides and the bottom, and the entire root system will be intact from the core outwards to regrow to the extremities. The reason why the roots grow all around is because the extremities, the bottom and the sides of the pot, are the regions where you have more warmth and more water. And so that's where the roots occupy first. So here, because the core is still relatively unoccupied, we will be a little more careful here. I will still remove all these matted roots, but I will be more gentle just to make sure that I'm not destroying anything. Now, this is a paint spatula, which is a little bit sharpened, and I could use this to simply cut in a flat manner all these roots. But because of the size of this tree, because I see that the core is quite unoccupied still, I will be more gentle and to see what I'm cutting. So we simply work outwards and I will undo all these matted roots. I understand this is perhaps a little bit boring to look, but that's the step we need to make. Shabazai, which is the equivalent of akadama that we use here in Montreal. It's a substrate that is mined in France, and it is something that we prefer here in Montreal because it does resist to freeze and thaw cycles much better than akadama. Also with akadama, there is a problem that very often you end up buying things that are not of top quality. Although perhaps this is less of a problem nowadays because there is more awareness. Now, one thing that I forgot to mention is, why am I repotting right now? First of all, I have a cold greenhouse where this tree is in, and this tree has been all winter between 2 and 7 degrees. Now the worst of winter is over, the days are starting to get longer, and I actually see that the buds here are starting to be shiny green. I don't know if you can see in the stream, but they're about to start opening. So I could have done this in a week, perhaps, or maybe even more, but this is a good time to do it. We will also remove as little roots as possible, or as many as necessary only, and this is what we will do. So I sort of undid all of this mess of roots, you can also see that the new roots are starting to become a little more whiter. They're starting to grow actually. So because the sheen is so underdeveloped, I want to be a little more careful with extremities. I don't want to be completely annihilating everything. Let me very quickly see if there is any question in the chat, and I come back here. So no worries. Awesome ringtone. Hope you can upload. Okay, so there seem to be no questions for now. Last year I killed 2 important trees because someone said to bare root a tree when pruning. Very wrong. Yes. So the information I'm giving today here is more specific to deciduous trees. Deciduous, you can be a lot more aggressive with the root. Mobility species, they regenerate roots much faster than conifers. But in general, if you can leave a section untouched, and I'm leaving untouched quite a bit here, is better. So I will not be washing this root system. There is no need for it, and especially not if this was a conifer. So you never bare root. You always leave a section untouched. Now, before I cut anything, I need to know which pot I'm going to use, because if I were to plant in an hypothetical situation, if I were to plant this actually it's not a bad, this is not a bad serendipity strikes. This is not a bad look at all for this tree. Super slanted. But if I were to plant it in this way, the top here is my section of highest limitation, whereas if I'm planting here and it's a shallower pot, the bottom may be that area. I actually quite like this. Now we have here a very strong root going this side, so this root here could actually make planting in this way, very highly slanted, believable. I don't know if believable is the right word, but if we were to plant it like this, and there is no root on to anchor this movement asymmetry to one direction, it would be more troubling to the eye. I guess that's the right way to say it. I have never thought about putting this tree like this, but it's actually, you were looking at the back, but something like this, it's actually not bad at all. Let me know what you think in the comments. Would you like to see this tree somewhat like this, or would you like to see this tree super asymmetric going away? Let me see what you think. So depending on what we go with, then the areas of greatest limitation that we have to deal with in the root system will be different. Let me check the chat. So there is one comment. Are you saying you could bare root a deciduous tree and not a conifer? Yes, Jonathan, I'm saying that you can bare root a deciduous tree but not a conifer, but if possible, don't bare root any. Okay? So Lucy is saying just a bit to the right. Is that what you're suggesting? Just a little bit, not that much, but somewhere like this. Yeah? I think slanted would be extreme for the shape. Okay. So let me tell you let me discuss some defects of this tree. A clear defect that I have always struggled with is this flat surface here, that if you look, it's all the roots are going this way and there is nothing here. It's a very one-dimensional, one-sided root system. So if we could hide this defect a little bit, I could even mount the soil underneath to some extent and have a better tree. Now, when I slant it, I don't want a diagonal line here. This type of horizontal line, we want to prevent any horizontal lines or vertical lines as much as possible. So if I slant it too much or too little, I may end up having a line that is horizontal or vertical. So there is perhaps a middle ground. If I look from the back here, in which this is just up from horizontal, and this is just down from a little bit from vertical. So I'm thinking of going with this front. Now the original front was here, and now we're rotating this a little bit to go somewhere like this, like this, yeah, like this. Okay, I like it. This is something that I did not plan. So I agree, not so radical a slant. Great, Lucy, that you like it. So this will be our repot. Now, one more interesting point to tell all the people that are maybe starting now. This is the most important operation that you do on a bonsai, almost like an open heart operation. But there is no reason to rush and to make mistakes because, oh my God, I want to get this done quickly. The least time that the roots are exposed to the air, the better. This is not true, and this is quite humid yet. But in a moment, I'll take a spray bottle and spray it, especially as we spend time with the pot. So we will go with some slanting. Yeah, I like it. Wow, this is natural. This works with the roots of the tree. This hides the defect. So we are striking many boxes in a good design at the same time. This looks natural also. When we design a tree, we want to maximize the nebari, which is the root flare. We want to have the best line from bottom to top. We want to highlight the interesting things about the tree, interesting characteristics, and we want to hide the defects. So I think we're doing quite well in all of this, and I quite like this. Man, that's very good. Okay, so people are saying that they like it. Exactly, looks very nicely. Thank you so much. Thank you everyone for the comments. So right now, let's clean our surface. I don't know if I will have to remove more roots. Probably not. This is very shallow, as you can see, even without cutting. So it will more depend on the size of the pot that we choose for this repot, and then I may shorten some of these roots that were going around, and some are breaking a little bit as I untangle them. Okay, so let me get a bottle of water. And of course I forgot to take a before picture as usual, but I guess the thumbnail from the YouTube video will serve that purpose. Now I will get something to clean the working surface. I'll put the tree on the side for a moment. Oops. Type of accidents that shouldn't happen. It's funny because this is a live stream and the tree almost fell off the table, and if it was a pre-recorded stream I would edit that out of the video, of course. But yeah. So right now I'll leave this on the side. Actually I'll leave it here and we will discuss pots. Let me get a few pots here. A few pots. Alright. Now I already know which pot I will use, but I have a number of options here to discuss. So right now we have agreed on something like this. Okay. Now my point of greatest limitation is here, but I do have a very strong root. So even if I were to plant this somewhere like this, and this was too high, here I have a root that I cannot cut. It's too strong. It comes from here. You cannot really see it, but I can feel it. And so this is a point of limitation that we'll have to leave. Something like this on the root system, we either have to change our plans for the design or live with it. So a little bit about pots. You have masculine pots and you have feminine pots, and you can have pots that are deeper and narrower, or you can have pots that are shallower and wider. And of course they have to fit the root system, but these two pots exemplify well what is called the rubber band theory, in which you can have a wider and slimmer pot or a deeper and narrower pot, so that the visual weight is somewhat conserved, and then you can have your choice. Sometimes, of course, a pot may be too big, and these are round. This is a round pot. I have a number of round pots here, or this is a rectangular pot. It's beautiful, but it's also too big for this tree, I find, and too overwhelming of the tree, I find. So this pot is a wonderful pot, but it's competing too much with the tree. This doesn't fit our aesthetic. It's too deep and too narrow. This is too shallow and too small also. Now here is an oval pot. An oval pot works well with a feminine design and also with a masculine design. So this is not too ugly, but again, there's something that I don't like about it. Now we're left with 3 round pots, and it actually works quite well with the tree centered or upright, but it's more effective as it's more striking, more dramatic when the apex of the tree, which is somewhere here, breaks off the boundary of the container. It could be this pot. Size wise it works. Color wise I'm not entirely sure. This sort of vomit green, I don't like it so much. So I will leave it. This is a very beautiful pot, a very beautiful color, but way too big for this tree. Okay, so the option that I had decided from the beginning, and but this was decided for the other vision of the tree, not for this one. It's still a little bit big for this tree, but I feel it works. What do you think? This would give the root system to grow. Of course, with more space for the roots, there will be more space for fertilizer to be absorbed, and these roots would have less competition and grow faster. So the tree will also develop a little faster in this pot. Now, even though this is a round pot, it doesn't mean that it's all the same. The glaze may be different. So for example, here you have defects that show differently on the glaze, and more importantly, you also have the fit. So you can decide if you want the negative space covered or the negative space showing. Even though it's a round pot, it's not entirely symmetric in that respect. And for a tree that you want to express stability, you use the covered area, and for a tree that you want to express more instability or more floatedness, you can choose this side as the front of your pot. So let me see here. In this case, because the tree is already relatively heavily slanted, I want to choose to cover the negative space. I think it looks better than showing the negative space. I don't know if it's such a small detail to be of importance here. Let me check the chat if there are any opinions. The beige oval pot I like. The one and the oval to my eyes. Do you need to trim the roots for this pot? I do like the pot. Not this. Yes. So I will only trim a little bit the roots, but not too much, especially those that I see the extremities. So I don't want them to be growing in a way that will cause problems in the future. So I don't want circling roots. So I'm trying to separate everything, and then I will shorten them a little bit, but there is no need to shorten all the way to here in this case. I am a bit conservative on roots, and this is a personal choice. I am not obsessed with having super radial roots. This root system is what it is, and I try to maximize the beauty of what it gives me, which is this strength in anchoring the tree going that way. So I will cut the roots a little bit, but not too much. Okay? Okay. So now we decided on the pot. Now I am undoing some of the roots here to prevent them from continuing circling the pot, and I will wet them a little bit more. I will leave the tree here and get rid of some of the spots. I recognize that the discussion of pots is still today has been very superficial, but the idea of the key concepts to keep in mind are that on a circular pot we strive to break the symmetry of the pot by having the apex of the tree coming out of the rim of the pot. Imagine if you had in a different case a conifer perfectly like a Christmas tree. It would not look good on a totally round pot. There is symmetry on the tree. Don't have symmetry on the tree. The tree is very asymmetric, and that is good. But still, we want to break the edge of the pot with the design. The second important concept about the pots is that even a round pot is not entirely symmetric. You have the feet to consider in your design. And the last thing is about masculine and feminine pots and the rubber band theory. Okay? So, of course, if you will follow me in future works, you will hear more about this again. This is again a round pot with a single drainage hole, but it has 3 anchorage points. I don't know who made this pot. I bought it long ago from someone who quit bonsai, so I will figure out later, and if I find out who did it, I will let you know. Here I will measure my screen. Now I like to tie my pot. I like to cover my drainage holes, and I like to tie my tree. So how do I cover the drainage hole? I use a net, and then I do the standard butterfly design, which is simply like this. And now that I have done it, I will come and measure if it's right. So it's too small, I can increase it, and I can measure again, and it's still too small, so I will increase it again, and now it is about right. So I have the Mickey Mouse or butterfly, however you want to call it, and it doesn't matter if you're one leg is on the one side and the other leg is on the other side. You can simply rotate it like this, and now you have the 2 legs on the same side, and now you can hold with your plier and make a sharp 90-degree angle, and there you have it. Now with my pliers I can, it's not necessary right now because I'll come back to keep it beautiful and professional, and then we will put it on the net and the net into the pot. And now I have this here. Now my wires come here, here, and here. So I want to keep this short, and at least in one case, I want this bent towards one of the holes, because this is a direction where there is not going to be wire intruding in it. But in any case, I will cut it short and make it look beautiful, even if it's a part of my repotting that no one sees. Let's make it beautiful. At least we know it's beautiful. So we have the net. Not the negatives. Okay, so there are no comments for now. Now, every tree is different. We need to decide on a tie down strategy before we put substrate or anything. We agreed that this tree is going to be somewhere like this. Somewhere like this. Yeah, not so slanted. Like this. So we agreed that the tree will be somewhere like this. Now, so I don't have many roots and I don't have anything to anchor on this side. So this anchoring wire will probably use it only to bring wires across. And here we have one wire and another wire. So it's here on the negative space, on the positive space. So one wire here, and okay. So for different trees, we will use different strategies of tying down, as I mentioned. And on this tree, we have strong roots on all on this side. So I don't know if you can see, we have strong roots all on this side. And what we will do is put a bamboo stake around here and use that to tie with two wires here, and then it will become more evident afterwards, and we'll put another wire here. Okay, so now that I know my strategy, I will actually, so I want to have two wires coming here to hold in this area. I want two wires to come here in this area, and I want two wires to come here in this area. Okay, so two wires and two wires. And yeah, so two wires here, and here I will, yeah. So I take a piece of chalk and I want two wires here, and I want two wires here, so we have 2 and 2, and I'll put 2 here. So in this case we have two wires, and two wires. I draw what I want to have on the bottom, so that I can remember afterwards. And now the problem with this is that we are using chalk, and chalk can be erased. For this tie down, I will use aluminum size 2. That will be enough. I don't try to cut them as short as possible, because sometimes you end up you end up having to redo it again. So 2 wires here and 2 wires here, and then 2 here. So we'll actually have 4 wires coming. The reason why I'm using so many wires is, first of all, because I don't want the roots to be moving, and second, I don't want the to appear. So right now I put my wire, I know where the holes are, and then I can measure exactly where this is going to be. In the case of aluminum wire, it's very simple to do it, but if you're using galvanized steel wire, it's much harder. What's very important is that you don't have any slack at the end of the process. So the section of the wire that stays here cannot be pushed by the growing roots and let the tree loose. Okay, so we have 1 wire there. I will put the other wire. The other wire. And you want this to be nice. So we have 1 tie down wire here, another going to the back, and we need 2 more wires to provide the tie down in this area here. Are you able to see, or am I going off camera? So there's a question about, can we use a rock to cover this area that lacks a body? And the answer is yes. It's definitely a possibility. Everything in bonsai is a lie, in the sense that it's all about illusion of age, illusion of many other factors. So yes, you can use a rock, and if you like it, go for it. I don't want to use a rock in this situation, but I could definitely. So 3rd wire, and you see 2 2 1 1. So that's exactly what I did before. And by having the chalk marks on the pot, it's very easy to remember where my wires need to go.
Okay, added.
Okay, so now on top of having phone calls, I have CD wanting to participate in this stream. That's great. Okay, so 2 wires, sorry, how was it? Yeah, so 1 wire here, and this is the positive area, so we will have the tree somewhere here. We'll have 1 wire here, another wire here, and we'll use a prop to keep the right angle. Another wire here, this one here, and we have 2 extra ones that we don't really need. We will use it we might as well use them. So now let's talk about substrate. The pot is ready, the tree is ready. Now substrate. The substrate that I will be using is Bonsai, which is the equivalent, which is similar to Akadama, and I'll show you how it looks. This is how it looks. It's similar to Akadama, but here we have many sizes, and this is a small tree. So we will actually take out with my sieve the largest particles that are just too big. I could have done this before the stream, but I wanted to show you. And you can see there is also dust. So the very large particles, I put them back on my bucket. They will get used for larger trees. Okay, this is more than enough. Now I will take away this large sieve. With this we remove the particles that are larger than 1/4. And now I will use the middle sieve and I will separate the parts that are more than 1/8. And for that I need a bucket for a moment. So I'll get the bucket here. Here's the bucket. I'll put all my substrate in this bucket for now. There's a lot of dust here. Okay. So now I am going to remove everything that is higher than 1/4. All of this is my 1/4, and this I will save. I will use this as a drainage or aeration layer. And now I need one more bucket. Many buckets tonight. Again, to capture all of this. So here I have all that is smaller than 1/4 and the dust. Now I will take out the 1/4, the 1/8, and I'll put the 1/16 mesh, the smaller of all. Okay. And now everything that passes on this smaller mesh I will not use because it's dust and just too fine. So if I had the substrate pre-prepared, I would not have to do any of this. Here we have all this dust and very tiny particles that I don't need. Here I have my particles that are higher than 1/16 but smaller than 1/4. That will be the aeration layer. And here I have all my substrate, which will be the interior of my, that's where the roots will actually grow, and that is it. So if this is too confusing, you can review it after, but essentially you can see here that I have larger particles here and smaller particles here, but the very small particles I threw away And the very large particles I also separated. So now we have our substrates. I will start by putting a very small aeration layer. Not more than almost one particle deep, as you can see here. Can you see it? I don't know if there are more comments here. Okay, there are no comments. I hope you can see it, but it's very little, very fine and shallow layer. So now we have here the hole, the deep hole in the middle, in the core here, and we want to plant it here. We will make a mound, almost like a pyramid, slightly towards this side, which is where the hole is. I hope you can see it. And the front of our pot is correctly placed towards you. It's also difficult for me to repot not seeing where the front is of the pot. And now we will settle the tree in the pot. Making sure that we keep the position towards the front, the angle. Let me look at this. Okay. So I'm happy with this. And now we will start tying. And actually I forgot to cut the roots because simply the pot doesn't require it, but I will cut still. I think it will be good for the tree. To cut the roots you have to use a very sharp scissor. If you have very sharp cuts, then your roots will regenerate from that area. If you have broken roots, then they will probably die down back to an intersection point. So I'll cut these ones too here. Okay. I don't know if you know, but I'm left-handed, and here I'm using my right hand so that you can see actually what I'm doing. So this is the front, this is the slanting that we want. Now I need a prop, and I will get a piece of bamboo to cut. I use normally bamboo to produce props, and these props help me hold the planting angle in the position that I want, so it stays immobile. So for example here you can see I put a prop, and that will help prevent the tree from moving in the pot once I put it down. I always use bamboo, and I always use the hard side of the bamboo on the position where the wire will hold. Now this bamboo is very big and we can cut it in half. So this is a extra large root cutter, and it's excellent. It's an excellent tool to have in your arsenal. Much better than the small root cutters that normally come in the bonsai kits. I have one prop there, and we'll have another prop here. This prop it's a little bit too big. I will cut a little bit of it, and I'll put it here. And this is holding the tree on this side. And now I can tie my tree, and in order to tie it, I will have one pair of wires here, actually holding on that prop. If I find my, oh, it's here. So you pull and twist. I will not put it all the way there immediately. I will first finish with the root in the other side, and here I will tie it on this one here. One of the easiest mistakes is that when you start tying the tree, you don't look in all directions and your tree is slanting back or forward, or not in the right place that you wanted. So you have to really, before you fully commit to the wiring of the tree, you make sure that it's the right angle everywhere. I left one side of my wire to serve as additional tie down, and now this is already fully tied down. I'll just pass this wire here. Okay, and now the final one, and then I'll finish tying everything. Now before I cut anything, I just want to make sure that it is to my liking. The tree is extremely secure, it doesn't move at all in the pot, and this is very important. Okay, so we have one prop holding the tree from falling over, one prop holding the tree from falling this way. The props are secured with wire, and then I have two wires tying the tree here on the sides. So this tree cannot move in any direction, and I did not apply any excessive force on any roots. So now I can simply cut the excess, and if this was galvanized wire, I would have to cut and twist, but because this is aluminum wire, it's easy to bend on its own. This is a small tree, so it's all no slack there, right on the negative, on the positive area. And now we're ready to finish the chopsticking with the substrate. Let me see if there are any questions. Would it be nice where, yes, I can see it. Yep. Okay. So now I'm putting the inside substrate here, and then we'll chopstick it. Now, as I mentioned, the chopsticking is with the directional chopstick, and here this is a big one, but we want to make sure that there are no spaces. The important thing about the chopstick is that it goes down and then you bring it up, and then it's hard to show it here. If I find a hole, perhaps here, you could find the hole that the chopstick made. We have here a number of roots that are on the outside. We can sort of create what's called a root lasagna, where you put a little bit of substrate, which is what went in first, and then we put a little bit more substrate to hold them in place. This is a very shallow pot, and there isn't much room to chopstick, but in bigger pots it would be more important. I still will want to probe that there are no spaces anywhere. Here I found a little hole. Let me see with this one. Still have room for substrate. I don't want to mount the substrate above the surface, but I do want to cover all the holes. So the important thing is to not have any air pockets inside. We keep filling them when we find the chopstick with the directional bamboo chopstick, and the surface of our pot or our substrate in a way that pleases us. So as you can see here, this is not horizontal, this is not vertical. Let me put the tree on the surface. This is not vertical, it's just past vertical. This would be vertical. This is not horizontal, this would be horizontal. We have the tree breaking the boundary of the pot. We have the strong roots showing as part of the nebari and anchoring the asymmetry going out of the pot in that direction. We're working to hide the negative, the defect of this nebari. We are showing the gracious movement of this trunk. Now this branch here has a little bit of overlap with this one, and this doesn't bother me at all. It's actually going just about here, coming up. I cannot really see in very high resolution what I'm showing you, but this is not really crossing with this. So right now, the last step, there is a question here: how much water you give to the bonsai when you are repotting? I don't give any water. The tree will not die. After I repot, I will thoroughly wash it with water. The final step is to use top dressing. What is top dressing? Top dressing is shredded New Zealand long fiber sphagnum moss that I use for everything, mixed with green moss, also shredded, 50% each. When you put the live moss shredded, you will then allow the live moss to start colonizing the surface. Now, right now in winter in Montreal, I don't have any moss to put. Okay? So in fact, I'm just going to put this, making a small layer, and as soon as the winter is over, I will gather live. The best moss to gather is the one that grows in asphalt or walls. If you go to a forest and you get moss that is growing on shade, even if it's on rocks, on complete shade, excuse me, you will not be able to make it grow. You have to get moss that grows in aggregate surfaces and in sun as much as possible. So parking lots, sides of buildings, and so on. Now, here I want to be careful to not hide the nebari that we worked so hard to show. So I throw top dressing on it, but I'm gonna clean it now. Why is top dressing important, and why is moss important? Top dressing and moss are important because, especially on such a shallow pot, they allow the roots to colonize much higher. Otherwise, the very top layer of surface would have light, would be drier, would be drying faster, and it would not allow the roots to colonize as much space as it can. The moss, once we have, so this can be done with not just with live moss like this, it's fine. The second function of the top dressing is to stabilize the surface. If I were to water this right now without any protection, all the surface that I work hard to put in would be washed out. So in reality, what I do is with the top dressing, I will wet it first a little bit with a water spraying bottle, and then I can go and water it properly, and the substrate will not go flying out of the pot. So this is the second reason to have top dressing. And the third reason is that once you have actual living moss, in addition to balancing and maintaining the humidity constant across the surface, it will also allow the microbiotic communities that will develop here to be better sustained. So it turns out, and this is something I learned recently only, that the live moss actually exudes compounds into the substrate and actually make this substrate much more amenable to life. So I'm very gently spraying just to keep in place this substrate, this top dressing. Are there any questions? No questions so far. So now you can see this wet top dressing. It does stick to you, so you have to be careful, but it will not let your substrate be washed away once you water it. Wow, I'm very happy with the results. I could still put a rock here if I had something nice. It's a possibility for the future, but for now this is quite nice. I will water it. I don't know if I can show you because of my setup here. I will water it quickly. And when I water, just gently at first and then full strength until you see clear water coming down at the bottom. I know I'm not showing this. I didn't think about this specific point, but I'll show you now. So it's still running, but now this tree is ready to start growing. As soon as I have top dressing, I will put, as soon as I have live moss, I'll shred it and put it together here. So this is our tree. Now, on the last few minutes, we still have at least I still have at least half an hour before my wife decides to divorce me. Let's discuss a little bit of aesthetics, and let's look at some of the defects right now in this tree. So for example, here we have 3 branches growing from the same spot. We need to have only 2. Why 2? Because if you have too many, you start passing too many resources through an area. It will create inverse taper. Inverse taper is when an area of trunk is thin and it becomes thick and then thin again. So the way to prevent that is to have always bifurcations of your branches. So for example, here I want only 2, and because I have this area here of growth, I will remove this one here actually. Another thing to consider when you're deciding is what's the angle between the 2 branches that you're leaving. So here for example, I have now 1 that separates to 2. This one here has a tiny bud that will continue growing, and here we have 1, 2, 3 again. Which of these I want to keep? I will cut this one here because I will keep this one because it has ramification already. I don't know if you can see it. Let me try to look closer. So the middle one has already a bifurcation, and I'll keep it now. Should I keep this one and the small one, or this one and this one? I will keep this because it already has 2 pairs of buds that may bifurcate, and it seems proportional. So I'll cut this one here. Okay, now I need wire to move these things in place, and if we have time we will do it. If not, it will be offline and I'll show the result. other areas of issues. Here we have 1, 2, 3, and the trunk 4. Which ones to keep again? So here, should I remove this? Should I remove this? Should I remove this? Or even should I cut the trunk here and remove all of this? I feel that all of the trunk is nice here. Actually, I will cut the trunk here, because I don't know, can you see it? This area here is very straight and very thick. So if I cut here, I will have a transition of taper, and I can keep this too. Okay? So that's what I will do. In order to cut there, I will get my small concave cutter, and I will cut. When you use the concave cutter, the thin part should be closest to the area that is most sensitive. And on a maple, you should always leave a stub. You should always leave a stub so that it doesn't cause potential harm to the branch that is immediately there. So here we have 1 and 2, and I will remove this one here. Okay, this one here is growing too close to the edge here, but there is a very tiny internode, so I'll leave it. So now we have this flow of the tree, and we have this branch here somewhat occupying this area here that is very important to create a backdrop, otherwise your eye will go to infinity. Okay, so this is a very important branch here. Other places that we have problems of trees. Here we have an interesting branch and one growing right from underneath. I will actually cut the one underneath and leave this beautiful branch here. Here we have 2 branches coming from the same place, so one of the 2 have to go, and the question is which one. I feel that I would like to occupy a little more this space here, and here I already have this branch, so I'll cut this one here. Now this is very straight, and I'll put some wire to put some movement here, but not right now. Again, here I have 2 branches coming from the same place, and this is very common on a maple that has not alternating but opposite growth pattern. So we will always have usually 2 branches to choose from. And here I think again I will cut this one here, and we have that in place. Now here this one goes, this can stay, this can stay. As you can see, wherever we have 2 branches coming from the same internode, we always have to choose one, and it's worth looking at which direction you want to occupy. So here I cut some more. This one here I don't really like, it's going towards that. At the same time, this could be the apex of our tree and we could remove all of this. What do you guys think? Let me see the chat. Are you concerned about the maple bleeding by pruning at this time of the year? I am not concerned because I'm not seeing it. I'm not concerned because I'm not seeing it. bleeding, but these are very small cuts, and if I were seeing any bleeding, I would cover them with this kind of which is almost like Elmer's glue. It's the Japanese cut paste, but the more liquid one. For much more substantial cuts, if I were to cut this big branch, perhaps I would put a little more of the one that looks more like Play-Doh. But I'm not seeing any bleeding right now. I can, and in answering to Lucy, I can wire it right now. Pat is voting to cut this here. Let me consider this. Yeah. So let me, Pat, yeah. Let me share some considerations here. I'll use this as a pointer. If I cut here, then this is our area of longest, our defining branch, or the point of highest asymmetry. And if I cut here, then this area will be competing with this one. So I feel that if I cut here, I have then to cut at least to here, which perhaps is not a bad idea, but I should consider carefully that. Because if we cut here and leave this as this is competing a lot with this. They are the same size, the same height. You know what? Let's go for it. You got it. I'm cutting here. So I'm using my concave cutter, and the thinnest tip goes closest to the branch. So I don't, as I squeeze, the thick part of the branch of the concave cutter is not pushing down the tissue on the area that is closest to a branch that I want to make sure that stays intact. So here we will cut as well. This one here, I will shorten it. And that is about it. Now on these two big cuts, I will put a little bit of, actually they are not really that big, to tell you the truth, and they are not really bleeding. So I'll put a little bit of the liquid glue type, and this is just tiny touch, and here, okay, and here, okay. So that's it. Now I will wire some areas. The areas that I want to wire are only the ones that that I have branches like this that I can turn sideways to make them look nice, or a little downwards. I don't think actually we actually cut. Let me look carefully here if I see any that needs to be wired. I will cut these little that are growing towards the interior too much and would compete with this. I'll leave this one here for now, so it helps keep healing this wound here, so I don't have dead wood coming down this branch. You see this little wound here? If I remove this may start dying here, so I will keep it here, bringing resources that will help heal this wound. So I think this is it for now. There is a very good argument to cut here as well. I will not do it right now, but there is a very good argument to remove this entire section here, because it's still competing, it's very thick, and this would give us nice taper and more dynamic movement. Oh, I'm really hard pressed not to cut it. What do you guys think? Should I cut this? Let me see in the I think the one that is very straight maybe. I vote remove it. I agree. So because of the lag in the chat, I don't know if we're talking about the same branch. Before I cut, I don't want it to be a mistake because of the lag in YouTube. Just to be clear, should we remove this and then the transition of the secondary trunk comes here and comes this way? Yes or no? Should wait. Pat agrees with something. No for me. Okay. Others? Looks very nice. Thank you. Pat, remove. I think I will keep it for now. And the reason is, if I remove it, I think we lose some character of this trunk, and it starts becoming too secondary. I think I will keep it for now, and then you can always remove a branch. You can sometimes never put it back. Although, if you've seen my previous video on the channel, you can do thread grafting this time of the year. I will keep it for now, and I don't see anything that very strongly needs to be wired. I think the tree is very natural and asymmetric like this. It is very well anchored by this weird body that it has, and it's ready to grow. So I suppose that we will discuss wiring in the future for those that are interested. Although I am by no means an expert, I still make mistakes for sure, but it's one of those things that only practice improves your game. I don't see any other defects. I don't see any other defects, and I don't see any other. Sorry, my wife was asking about my son, if he needs to shower or not. I don't see any other defects. I have here a very small bud that is growing opposite to this branch, so I'll remove it. And if we look from top, the top, every branch has its place in the sun. So this is a sustainable design. What sustainable design means also that you always let your tree grow, so the tree is sustainable. You never try to, on purpose, stop your tree from growing. And as a part of sustainable design, sustainable for the health of the tree, is that one day this may be too big and then it will be cut here and replaced by this. This will be too big and this will be replaced by this. So there is no such thing as a finished bonsai. It's always something in development. Well, not in development, in movement. And as soon as it's ideal, the next growing season it's no longer ideal. And it is both an opportunity to reconceptualize the design, as well as a necessity to keep the health of the tree in place. So I can always keep this tree something like this, but I will always be, and then I'll have to redevelop their ramification and so on. But always keeping the tree healthy. So this tree, I don't think it's necessary to wire anything, and I don't see any major flaws here. There are some stops from last year that I can clean now. And most of these branches are very small. I'm a bit troubled by this one here, so I will bring it up or out, perhaps this way in the future. It doesn't need to be now. And that will put it in a good position. So I don't see any more flaws, and I guess this is it. So it's very nice that 69 people joined in this first experiment with live streaming. I was quite nervous that there are so many technological things here. I have my laptop, I have my iPad, I have the wireless microphone, I have the lights and the Osmo Pocket 2 doing the live streaming. It's really a lot of things that can go wrong, in addition to thinking about what I want to say. It's really a very difficult thing to do, much more difficult than just recording a video, but I really enjoyed it. And oh, I found a flaw here. These two branches here are just growing too close, and I'll remove them. I thoroughly enjoyed this, and I will do it again for sure. And if you have not subscribed yet to my channel, where I discuss a lot of all of what I learned from many sources, but primarily from Ryan Neal and from Walter Paul and Jim Doyle, I do recommend you to do so if you like. And I will advertise in the future whenever I feel like the shock of all the stress of preparing for today is gone, and I'll do it again. So for now, I will thank you for having joined, and if you have any more questions, I will look at the chat for a few more minutes or seconds to make sure that there are no more questions, and then we will, if you still have questions in the future, you may ask me via email or on the comments to this video that will be available on the channel. And thank you for watching. So let me check if there are any further questions. What was the name of the soil you use? Spell please, for sure. The name of the soil is Shabazai. You will only find it in France and in Montreal probably. But if you don't have that, you work with whatever you can find. I use diatomaceous earth quite a lot. I use lava, I use pumice. I don't use akadama again because it's too easy to degrade if it's not very high quality, and it's expensive. And if you adapt your fertilizing, your watering, you will achieve good results as well. You have to remember that there are trees that are 400 years old in training in a bonsai pot, and modern bonsai substrates are only around for the last perhaps 150 years. Another question is, so Shabazai, Chabasai. Yeah, so Tom, that is the spelling for you. Where I live, akadama or any other soil like it is hard to find. We usually have a crushed lava and pumice and bark mix. But that is totally fine, that will work. So go for it. The tip of the bamboo bracing, that's great. I love you liked it. Thank you very much, Jonathan, for your comment. So I guess there are no more questions. So I thank you again one more time for nearly 2 hours, an hour and 46 minutes. And during the summer, as this tree starts growing, I will be sharing updates with you. And I really thank you for your input that allowed me to change the aesthetics of this tree in a very interesting way. So that is for now. Thank you very much, and until the next one, bye bye.